There are goals that decide matches, and then there are goals that define a team's entire tournament mentality. Mexico's solitary strike against Korea Republic was the latter. It didn't arrive through chaos or a fortunate deflection. It was the product of patient, purposeful buildup, the kind of move that takes genuine footballing intelligence to construct under World Cup pressure. When the ball finally hit the net, the Mexican bench erupted not with surprise, but with relief and vindication, as if the players were saying, yes, this is exactly what we planned. What made the moment register beyond just 3 points was the composure surrounding it. Korea Republic, to their enormous credit, refused to collapse. They reorganized, they pressed, they created genuine moments of anxiety for the Mexican defense. So Mexico's ability to hold a clean sheet alongside that single goal tells you as much as the goal itself. Keeping a disciplined, well-coached Korean side scoreless across 90-plus minutes requires more than talent. It requires structure, communication, and the kind of collective defensive buy-in that only comes when a squad genuinely trusts its system. The final whistle carried that particular World Cup sound, one set of supporters releasing weeks of built-up tension, another absorbing a result that narrows their path forward dramatically. One goal, but every inch of it earned. In a match decided by the finest of margins, the players who shaped the outcome weren't necessarily the ones whose names trended immediately afterward. Mexico's performance was built on the contributions of their midfield engine. Whoever controlled the tempo in that central zone effectively dictated whether Korea Republic could get their dangerous attackers into the game. The Mexican number who provided the decisive moment will carry that moment with him regardless of how the rest of the tournament unfolds. Scoring at a World Cup is never ordinary. It is a career landmark that gets replayed across generations. But equally important was the defensive leadership Mexico showed at the back. Organizing a clean sheet against a Korean attack that can transition quickly and create chances from wide areas demands concentration for the entire match. Not just the first 20 minutes when adrenaline is high, but in the 75th minute when legs are heavy and focus can blur. On the Korean side, their attacking players showed flashes of the quality that makes this squad genuinely dangerous. The problem wasn't individual ability. It was the collective inability to convert pressure into goals against a Mexican defensive structure that had clearly prepared specifically for how Korea likes to attack. That preparation gap between the two coaching staffs and how their ideas translated onto the pitch may ultimately be the real player story here. Tactical homework done and executed. Mexico at a World Cup is one of football's most consistent stories, and also one of its most complex. El Tri carry the passion of an entire nation into every tournament, a fan base that travels in extraordinary numbers and creates an atmosphere unlike almost any other. But that passion comes layered with expectation, and for Mexican supporters, a particular kind of anxious hope. They've been here before. They know what a good group stage result feels like, and they also know what it feels like when the tournament ends earlier than it should. A win against Korea Republic matters enormously in that context. It puts Mexico in control of their own destiny. It tells the squad, many of whom have grown up watching El Tri in previous World Cups, that the preparation was right, that the approach works at this level. For Korea Republic, the weight of this loss is equally significant. Korean football has undergone genuine evolution in recent decades, producing players who compete at the highest club levels in Europe. Their supporters carry real ambition into tournaments now, not just participation pride. A defeat forces difficult questions about their tactical setup, about whether their squad's quality is being fully expressed, and whether their best football can still emerge before the group stage closes. Both nations, in very different ways, are using this World Cup to answer questions about where their football genuinely stands. And this result gave Mexico encouraging answers, while leaving Korea searching. This match is a perfect case study in what coaches call defensive compactness, and why it is so devastatingly effective at a World Cup. Mexico, protecting a one-goal lead for the majority of the match, dropped into a shape that prioritized the space between their defensive and midfield lines. Korea Republic's natural game involves quick combinations through central areas and runners from deep. To neutralize that, Mexico's midfielders had to do two jobs simultaneously: press high enough to prevent Korea's playmakers from turning comfortably, but recover quickly enough to maintain a compact defensive block when possession was lost. This dual responsibility is genuinely exhausting and requires every player to understand not just their own role, but the positioning of everyone around them. When one midfielder steps to press, the man beside him must shift to cover the space created. Miss that shift even once against a team with Korea's technical quality, and you concede. The fact that Mexico executed this discipline for the vast majority of 90 minutes explains the clean sheet more than any individual defensive heroic. The concept worth understanding here is that defensive solidity at this level isn't passive. It's an active, constantly adjusting collective effort. Teams that look like they're sitting back are often working harder than the team with the ball. Mexico's 1-0 looks simple on the scoreboard. The defensive intelligence that protected it was anything but. So where does this result place Mexico in the conversation about which CONCACAF and Asian football nations can genuinely compete at a World Cup? Not just qualify, but win matches and progress with intent. El Tri's ability to grind out a clean sheet victory in a tournament game reinforces their status as a side that knows how to navigate the specific demands of a World Cup group stage. They don't always dazzle. Sometimes they frustrate their own fans with pragmatism over flair, but they find ways to win matches that matter. And at a World Cup, that is ultimately the only currency that counts. For Korea Republic, the debate is more urgent. Is this squad, talented, European-based, technically strong, being set up in a way that maximizes what they actually have? There's a genuine argument that Korean football's individual quality deserves a more aggressive tactical expression, that sitting and waiting doesn't suit players built to press and transition quickly. And here's the question I want you to answer in the comments. Which nation has the higher ceiling at this World Cup? Mexico, who just proved they can win ugly and organized, or Korea Republic, who still have the attacking potential to hurt anyone if they unlock the right tactical approach? Drop your prediction below, because this group is far from settled, and the next 90 minutes for each of these sides could completely rewrite the story we just told.